you could also talk about it, then specifically your flying for IMES and how that was seen as a huge advantage by the executives in making an efficient use of the time they had to solve problems, to see new facilities, to deal with all the things they have to deal with.
Well, as with my other experiences in business aviation, the the aircraft was very much viewed as a tool, and it enabled people to leave Dayton early in the morning and go visit 2 or 3 business operations or new business opportunities and still get back in time for dinner. And that particular operation is very family centric, very family oriented, and so that was very important to them. The other thing was that I think, as with a lot of businesses that use business jets, the jet was viewed as a strategic opportunity to touch communities that are difficult to touch within a day of Dayton. But I think, you know, the jet is a time machine.
That's exactly the point.
And I can, and during my years with Deere, they were in the process of developing what we now know as the CIS, and they were just opening up Kiev and you know, many of the outer countries there, and so same thing. We were Deere and Company was opening refurbishing centers and new manufacturing centers in the Soviet Union, or the former Soviet Union, and the airplane was truly a strategic tool where a team of engineers could get out within, you know, 8 or 9 hours, and we were using a Gulfstream 5 there as well, but we could get to Kiev and have very important, those executives could have important meetings and move projects along. One executive once told me that what would have taken a year to develop from a business point of view and from a manufacturing point of view was cut to at least 5 to 6 months because of the airplane. So the airplane was, if you look at it as a strategic tool, that's a pretty important capability to have.
You mentioned earlier that you could in a day visit 2 or 3 locations.
Yes.
And a lot of people, I think there's a misconception that business aviation is you're going to one cocktail party after another and you're doing this and that. But you mentioned earlier that you might go to a feedlot, you might go to a grain supplier. Can you sort of, you know, talk about a regular 2 or 3 city trip in a day where it wasn't cocktail parties and it wasn't?
Actually, it was very rarely ever that I knew of. It was very rarely a social experience. It was a pleasant, comfortable experience, and I think the company and the owners wanted travel to be as comfortable and productive as possible. But most of the time, the day started at before daylight, and within an hour or an hour and a half, people were able to land, sometimes at a remote, uncontrolled airport, someplace out in the Midwest or down in the South, and be in their business discussions or visit a manufacturing facility and talk with employees. And sometimes it was recognition for progress. Sometimes it was problem solving. All of the things that business people do to keep their businesses growing and to be sustainable. But it was still work, and it usually spanned, you know, a period of 10 to 12 hours. And as a corporate pilot, you know, you spend time waiting sometimes or planning the next leg. But one of the real rewards is to feel like you're part of the team and feel like you're part of something that's going on that will employ more people, perhaps.
Something that matters.
Yeah, absolutely, and that the airplane and our flying the airplane made us an integral part of the project.
Were you, G5 is a pretty big airplane. I know there were other airplanes in the fleet. Were you ever limited where you could go by the length of the runway where you were going?
Sometimes.
That's
But-
I mean, but as a
yeah,
pilot,
but-
that's a personal, like, wow.
Yeah, and I don't want this to be a commercial for Gulfstream.
No, no.
But the G5 is a very capable airplane, and they, other than the size of the airplane, the maneuverability, once you get to an apron someplace, you know, that's where our limitations were. It wasn't with the runway most of the time.
Okay.
I mean, you can stop the airplane safely on a 3,000-foot strip.
Wow.
Not that we always did that,
No, but
but you could comfortably operate within a 5,000-foot runway for takeoff and landing. And most business jets do offer that kind of, you know, some level of flexibility that they have to have. I mean, the mission is usually to airports, involves a significant part of the business aviation mission is to airports that are not served or served broadly by commercial aviation.
right.
So we were rarely limited,
Okay.
to tell you the truth.
But the commercial aviation part of IMES, was it just the G5 or did you have a smaller airplane also?
Actually, most of the aviation that was conducted by the IMES company was done on the Hawker Siddeley, the
Oh.
HS-125.
Okay.
And
Oh, that's a
the
great
Gulfstream, the Gulfstream wasn't put into operation until Procter & Gamble actually had taken over the IMES brand. And Gulfstream, and Procter & Gamble operates business jets as well, as
Sure.
you probably know, out of Cincinnati Lunken.